Well, my constituency, Bromsgrove, and the neighbouring villages are defined by their green space and rurality, providing a sharp contrast to the urban West Midlands next door. Our villages are home to rural enterprises and to farmers, and it is our farmers who are the lifeblood of our rural communities, and their role cannot be overstated. They not only provide us with food security, but they contribute significantly to our local economy. It is critical that we support them. Every single one of us in this country relies on farmers 3 times a day. They are the guardians of our countryside. They often work in isolated or harsh conditions, physically and in a competitive marketplace. And I'm delighted to be participating in the NFU's MP Fellowship Scheme to better understand the pressures that they face. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State promised to protect farmers, promising not to change inheritance rules, but then in the autumn budget, among many other broken promises, Labour broke their pledge to farmers, reducing the relief and imposing inheritance tax rates on farmland which will devastate family farms and pose a serious risk to domestic food security and food prices in our country. These changes not only hurt the agriculture sector and our economy, but they also hurt individual farming families, at least 249 across my constituency. I want the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, to be aware of concerns specifically from 2 constituents. One wrote to me and said, "This specifically targeted decision will eventually destroy family farms. It's a mentally and physically hard industry to be in, but for most has been passed on from previous generations who do it for love. As an industry, we feel we are no longer needed." But I want the House to be aware, Madam Deputy Speaker, of a comment from a constituent who wrote to me last night, and he said, "I have never written a personal email to an MP before, but I feel so strongly about the recent changes announced in the budget that I couldn't let them go. Although on paper we might appear rich, the reality is we only make enough money each year to support 2 families, and we don't have millions in the bank. We pay our taxes like every other working person does. Every spare penny that we get, we invest in the farm to make it better for the next generation. But after the budget announcements last week, feel that was a waste of time." He wrote, "I am beginning to think that the best option for my family would be to sell up and move abroad to a country that appreciates its farmers and foods." That is devastating, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I want the government to reflect on those words very carefully. I personally recall the words that the Prime Minister quoted in his first speech in Downing Street, where he said he wanted the government to tread more lightly on our lives. But sadly, this government has done anything but, and is ruthlessly bearing down on every facet of British society in the most ideological of fashions. I call on the government to scrap the family farm tax and to instead support British farmers.